So, those who don't know me very well, believe it or not, one time in my life I used to work as a banker. I used to be a banker. I used to deal with everyone's money all the time and stuff like that, and it was kind of fun. I was the balancing teller at Bank of Nova Scotia. I had a little bit of a high top back then, so it looked a little bit different. So it was kind of fun, but it was kind of interesting dealing with all those thousands and hundreds of thousands of dollars. When I was a teller, I got to deal with cash. And then I went down to customer support and I started dealing with big, large checks. So sometimes with cash, I was, $1,000 bills, $100 bills here or there. And then when I went down to balancing teller, I was dealing with millions of dollars. And I was transferring checks from one bank to the next. And sometimes it was $10 million. And I'm walking down the street with $10 million in my hands in a form of a check. And then sometimes when it was balancing teller, I was dealing with $1,000. People come up here, I want $10,000 cash. And it's boom, 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 boom. The thing that was kind of interesting, though, it didn't have any value to me. It was like playing Monopoly. For me, because it wasn't mine, I could dish it out, and I was actually getting pretty good at it. And come to find out, I was like, going through and dishing out people's money and stuff like that, and I was actually pretty good at it. And then I had a little secret that I was dyslexic, so my counting things didn't really kind of matter at the end. But it was great that I could actually do that. But because it had no value to me, it didn't matter to me what I was dishing out. So it was just a tool, just like money in my wallet. Now, the money in my wallet had significant different value to me than the money it's not 10 million, but it is $5 that I was pulling. And the money that I had in here, this was a tool for me to maybe buy a coffee and a muffin. And if I was lucky, a donut. But I don't know, that was kind of stretching it, depending on how much of a big of a tip I wanted to leave. But it was just a tool. And this had very little value to me just because of the little amount. The blue guys didn't really do nothing for me. It would just mean that I was able to get a coffee. But then when I was able to kind of reach in my wallet there and pull out one of these brown boys. I pulled a brown boy. Now that kind of changed things. I was able to kind of hold that, feel that. That was kind of nice. Put that in my pocket. Made you walk with a little swagger. A little bit heavier, right? It gave me confidence. I didn't have to worry about going hungry, right? I didn't have to worry about my next meal. I could start, walk around with a little bit of confidence and stuff. But then when you kind of think about it, you start multiplying this. Let's say you got 100 of these. What does that change? It's just no longer $100 bills. You might be able to show it off. You might start to be a big tipper when you start having 100 of these, right? You might start kind of thinking that you're the man, right? You kind of walk in and wanting people to call you sir. I used to run a photography studio, and I kind of got a kick out when I used to spend so much money at the studio. People would start, oh, Mr. Wise, Mr. Wise. It's like, yeah, once you start spending a couple $1,000s, you start calling me Mr. now. And that happens to things, right? But it's kind of interesting that there's a value that we place on this that's actually not in this, right? We're attaching a certain value to this that we're associating stuff with it. And how are we relating to it? So the question is, how do you relate to money? The question is that we relate to things in different ways. So when I was working at the bank, I'll tuck this away here. When I was working in the bank, I got to see, so it had no value to me behind the counter as a teller. But on the other side, I got to see how people put value to their money. I had a lady yell at me for a 75-cent service fee charge when she had $100,000 in her account. I also had someone that come in and they took advantage of a new teller. So there was a new teller that was there, and he deposited a $300 check. Well, she hit too many zeros, and she accidentally deposited 30,000. Well, he noticed that, and he decided to, well, let me withdraw all that 30,000. He said, "I'll do a withdrawal, please." He withdrawed it and grabbed the money, and like he could get away with it. There's another guy, a friend of mine, that was held up by gunpoint. And he was forever traumatized because someone wanted to take something that wasn't theirs. So those are all examples of people with poor relationship with money. The question is, what's your relationship with money? Now, I know what you might say is, compared to those last examples, I'm doing pretty good with my relationship with money. But we all have a relationship with money. So what's it for you? Is money scarce for you? Is it hard to come by? Do you struggle to get money when other people seem that they get money all the time, and it's just like, I have to work my butt off to get $1, and it just seems to come so easily to other people? Or does money come easily to you? And maybe you just don't even think about money. Maybe it's the money that's in your pocket, you just want to be able to give freely and not have to care about it. The title of this message is, Our Relationship with Money Mirrors Our Relationship with God. And yes, I'm going there. Money is a very sensitive topic because of what we associate and attach things to it. Because we associate so many other things to the money, we can get caught up in it. We can actually be able to get caught up in all the noise and the nonsense that goes along with it. And I dare to make the claim about people's relationship with money is actually mirroring the relationship what they have with God. And the reason I say that is because if someone can cheat and lie and steal to get money, do they really know the character of God? If someone is thinking that money is evil, are they open to God's blessing? That God might want to use someone else to give them a blessing, and they might want to give them a financial blessing on that. But if they're thinking that money is evil, then how they relate with money in that way? Or we have some people that think money, they have to give it all away. It's like, I can't have money, I got to give it all away. Like that's going to make you righteous. So you're trying to buy your way into heaven? Is that what you're trying to do if you're trying to give it all away? And if you're trying to do that, are you trying to discount what Jesus already did and realize that that's actually a free gift of salvation that he gave you? You don't have to buy anyway. You don't have to buy your way into heaven. So what is it that's your relationship with money? Because we have all kinds of different ones. Because at the end of the day, if you kind of think back, money's just a tool. I got a little hammer up here, my little illustration, right? It's just no more than a tool, right? This hammer was meant for good. It's meant for building things, constructing things. We can build a house with this, but we can also destroy a life with this, and if we use it in a violent way. We could also use it to be destructive and destroy things and demolition things, but we could also use it to hurt somebody. So this in itself is not good or evil, and neither is money. Money is just a tool. Money is not neither good nor evil, but it's how you use it. And it's where your heart is when you actually want to do it. See, money is just what I would call a magnifier. It magnifies what you already are. So if you are generous, you'll become more generous when you get more money. If you have a little bit of money, you become more generous. I kind of use the example that if someone had a $100 bill and they were not to give, $10 from that $100 bill, then they're not be a generous person. But if you don't do that, then there's no way that you'll give 10,000 over 100. So it kind of depends on where your heart is. If you are selfish and blow all the money on yourself, that would make you even more selfish when you get more money. Right? It just magnifies what you already are. So the more that you get, it doesn't solve anything, which is what I was trying to do. Throughout my life, I was trying to out-earn my stupidity, is what I always said. Because what I was trying to do, I was just trying to keep on earning and earning, and I wasn't getting any further ahead. It's really a hard issue at the end of the day. Again, money's not good or evil, but what's your heart while you're using it? While you're using this tool, where's your heart at? Is your heart towards Jesus or your heart away from Jesus? It says in the Bible, in Matthew, that for where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. And that's such a true statement. Wherever your treasure is your treasure on your money? Then that's where your heart's going to be. Is your treasure on Jesus? Because that's where your heart will be. So a lot of us know the story of the rich young ruler. I wasn't going to use this example, but it's actually quite good when you think about what he was going through. So the rich young ruler in the Bible, we pick up Mark's version of the account of the story. We know that he was trying to figure out what he needs to do for eternal life. He was trying to figure out what is the meaning of life. I did all this other stuff. What do I need to do? So let's kind of read it. And if anyone has their Bibles, you can open it up. If not, then we have it up on the screen. As Jesus started out on his way to Jerusalem, a man came running to him, knelt down, and asked him, "Good teacher, what must I do to inherit eternal life?" Jesus' response, "Why do you call me good?" Jesus asked, "Only God is truly good." Now I have to pause there for 1 second. When I first read this, I was just, what is Jesus trying to say? He's not God? And I got really, really confused with this. But he's actually just trying to give him an indication that, no, he is God. And the one that you're speaking to is the one that you need to come to. So he's just kind of alluding that. But the guy doesn't quite get it because he's still calling him teacher. But Jesus said, okay, well, on a side note, I'll just continue on. But to answer your question, you know the commandments. You must not murder. You must not commit adultery. You must not steal. You must not testify falsely. You must not cheat anyone. Honor your mother and father. He responds, "Teacher," the man replied, "I have obeyed all these commandments since I was young." Looking at the man, Jesus felt genuine love for him. "There is still one thing that you haven't done," he told him. "Go sell all your possessions. Give the money to the poor, and you will have a treasure in heaven. Then come follow me." The man's face fell, and he went away sad, for he had many possessions. I used to think that Jesus was saying that everybody had to be poor. It's interesting when you have to look at what he's actually trying to say. In this man's case, why was he actually trying to ask him to sell all his possessions? If you think about it, it's because the possessions were his God. His possessions is what he leaned to for his security and for his understanding. He just needed, Jesus wanted him to have a heart check. Check your heart for what you think is important. He thought that he could follow Jesus and have all the security instead of relying on Jesus as he's walking with him, as he's on mission with him. He thought that he could, well, I got a B plan back here. I can have my B plan over here and make sure that all my possessions and all that stuff is good. And I can't give all that away to the poor because what's attached to it? His identity. His identity is attached to his money. It says that you should have no other God before me. And that's what he's talking about. He's talking about not having other gods. And many of us have other gods that we worship in the form of money. And we all have to check our hearts to find out are we worshiping money or are we worshiping Jesus? And that's a tough call sometimes. And then you have to look hard. How many of us have anxiety about money?
Ask how many don't.
That's a better question. How many people don't think that they have enough? How many people are, because of all these advertisements, you know that every single commercial that you watch is to raise discontentment, right? If you study marketing, They want you to be discontent for what you already have so that you go buy their product, so that you go in debt for their product, right? It's to spread discontentment. So how many people are discontent? If you watch TV, you automatically get it. It's like, oh, I got to have the greatest thing. I want this. I want that, right? Our identity gets all wrapped up in it. The other thing that sometimes people, maybe you're bad with money. Maybe it's just like you're constantly at the payday lenders, or maybe you're constantly in debt. Maybe you constantly have to, you know, as soon as payday's done, the money's all gone. And maybe you feel horrible about it, right? Maybe you don't want to invite friends over because the bill collectors might call, right? I've been there. Right? I don't want, oh man, if the phone rings and so I have somebody over, oh man, we'll go out to eat. Yeah, we don't want to be at home, right? So sometimes that can happen to people because our whole identity can get wrapped up on things, because how embarrassing could that be? That people think that you're not good with money. You get some people that actually pretend that they're good with money, and they have a bunch of cash that they walk around with so they can kind of flaunt that they're actually good with money, and they're really horrible with money, right? So sometimes we get flashy with our way that we handle things, right? Because it says in the next verse in Ecclesiastes that whoever loves money never has enough. And whoever loves wealth is never satisfied with their income. This too is meaningless. Reflecting back, this was really, really hard on me. Because I was always striving. I was an entrepreneur. I always had stuff going on. I was always hustling. I was always trying to make a few bucks. I was trying to, do whatever I could to make the money. And it seemed like it was kind of never quite enough. I always had that next goal ahead. I wasn't satisfied with the goal that I had, because as an entrepreneur, you always want to go to the next. If you make the first $100,000, guess what? You want the next $100,000, right? So, and then Brendan, he'd be up there. He wants $1 million, don't you? Hey, there you go. Hey, so you're always striving, but sometimes what it says in the Bible, you have to be content with what you got, and then he'll bless you with more stuff after that, okay? For me, pride got in the way. Pride was really, very powerful for me. Currently, right now, I have 4 jobs. Right now, I work in the film industry as a camera assistant. I work there usually Thursdays and Fridays. I also am a counselor for physically and mentally challenged, so I take care of people with mental disabilities. I also work at the homeless shelter, so at nights I do night shifts, and I do night awake, so I stay up all night and make sure that everyone's safe at the homeless shelter. I also do 360 booths, where it's the video booths where people can take the photos, and I do events and stuff like that. Why do I tell you that stuff? The reason I tell you that stuff is because pride can creep into that stuff. I can easily gloat, and I used to do this a lot, and I've been trying my best to not to do this. If someone says, how you doing? And it's like, well, I'm busy. Like I'm trying to convey that I'm important enough, that I'm so important that I have to be busy. So I was conveying that oh, well, I'm always so busy. And then with the 4 jobs, it's like I could say that, it's like, well, I'm doing that so that I can provide for my family, and I'll do whatever it takes to provide for my family. But why am I actually saying that? Is it so that I can be prideful, so that I can actually say that, I'm the man, that I can actually provide? Because it can go very, very in different ways. It can go in the way that I could get frustrated that I don't have one job that pays enough. I could look at it that way. Or I could look at it that God gave me an opportunity, that He knows that I have, I like to do multiple things, so He gave me multiple jobs so that I can stay content in those multiple jobs and thank Him for the blessings of each of those particular jobs. The difference is that every pay now, I thank God for every single blessing that I get. So when I receive pay from that, I thank Him. And in that thanking, because I'm thanking Him, I'll tithe in that thanks. So I want to give Him my first fruits of what He does, because if it wasn't for Him, I wouldn't have none of those jobs at all. And because of that, I actually strive and I work hard to not only to please Him, but to provide for my family, I also am giving honor to him. So I'll give 10% of my first fruits because, like I said, that first $1,000, I'll give that $100. Why? Because I would never had the $1,000 to begin with. But that is really hard sometimes to wrap your head around, that it's not my work that gave me the ability, right? Because I can be prideful and say, yeah, I'm really good at all those jobs. I'm really good at a camera assistant. I'm really good at that. And it's me that actually did that work. And then me being selfish. If I want to be selfish, then I can actually, create an attitude around it. I could actually be able to become prideful and in a way that is going to be dishonoring to him. So people have different relationship with money. And we have to think about what people's relationship with money is. How often have people fought over money? Me and my wife, you fought over money too? Yeah. It starts early. Me and my wife, the only thing we ever argued about was money. Never argued about anything else. It was always money. Why? Partly because I had a perspective about being prideful. She had a perspective about having security. But really what we were both doing is denying God's role in it. We were both denying God's role in our finances, both in giving me the ability to go out and earn an income and us being able to be stewards and deliver that income. So sometimes we deny God's role in a certain ways that we'd be able to thinking that I deserve all the money. Sometimes people will receive money and they don't know what to do with it, so they want to give it away like it's evil or something like that. And as we said before, it's not evil, it's just a tool for us to be able to do it. So we need to give ourselves a heart check, depending on what we want to be able to accomplish with that money. Sometimes we need more, and ladies, sometimes this applies to you. Sometimes we need more to feel secure. I've seen many people that would be able to, it's like, no, I need X amount in my bank account so I can feel secure. See, as an entrepreneur, sometimes that didn't always happen, but I knew I had customers lined up. So me and my wife would fight a lot about, okay, well, you got 2 days before rent's due. There's nothing in the account. She's getting a little antsy. But on the flip side of it, it's like, well, I got 5 customers. I can handle it, right? So there was a disconnect because there was a prideful that I could actually do it until I couldn't. And the days that I couldn't, then we would butt heads and fight. And it was hard. It was destructive. Sometimes people get a lot of money and they want to control it. Right? They want to know where every single penny they could control. Oh, I can't let this slip over my hand. Then that gives them even more anxiety. Right? Then it's like, no, I don't want a bunch of money. Because then they'll have anxiety that goes around that. I had a thing when I was in the photography studio. I used to run a photography studio, and I would reach almost $100,000, and I would get scared that I couldn't handle it. And subconsciously, what I was doing, I wouldn't make the sale call. I wouldn't make the final, booking, or I would, work on something that wasn't really important. Even though I kept on saying that I wanted money, and I wanted to break that $100,000 barrier of mine, and I would self-sabotage myself because A, I didn't think I deserved it. B, I didn't think I could handle it, and I didn't want the more money, as some people say, more problems. So it was really very challenging when you tried to do that. And you have to kind of think about, why am I doing that? Right? Am I accepting God's blessings, or am I just kind of doing it for my own self? And that's what I was doing. What about the relationship that money has with the church? What does the church always want, as people would say? The idea is the church just wants your money, right? You hear that a lot. Churches want your money, and what's the perspective? I'm going to be here and honest. It's like, we don't pass out the plate here at Explorer Church for that number one reason. because we don't want people to have the perception that we just want your money. Because then the reality is God can do all this without any of your money. If he wants to move mountains, he can move a mountain. If he wants to do whatever he wants to do within the community, he can do it. And sometimes he uses resources of other people, he can make that happen. So what we do is we would look at our finances in a different way. We would vision for the church first. What we want to do is like, well, what does God want to do? So what we would do as a group, we would pray. We sit down and pray, what does the church want to accomplish? And once we figure that part out, then it's like, well, what are the resources that are going to accomplish that? And we pray about that. And then we figure what the budget is based off of what he wants to accomplish. And then we kind of go around that way. And then if he wants to make something happen, he's going to provide. And then we need to step in faith to do that. Why do I say all of that to talk about stewardship? Because stewardship is just managing his money. Stewardship is just trying to figure out what best way and how we feel about money. Because if my identity is all wrapped up in money, then how are we going to kind of move forward? I'm going to invite my daughter Chloe up. And so this is my daughter Chloe. She's back from university. And she's at Kingswood. And she's doing great at Kingswood. Thank you, thank you. I didn't get an applause. So, Chloe, I'm going to ask you to take whatever you have in your pocket and bless somebody with it. So, Chloe, was that hard?
No.
Right? All right. You can go sit down. Why wasn't that hard for Chloe? Any thoughts? She doesn't value? Well, it was only $5, so maybe that could be part of it, right? I could have did it with $100, and she would have done the exact same. It would have been just as easy, right? With $100, right? Not all of us can say that. Not all of us, if I had a $100 bill and we decided to bless you with the $100 bill, then not all of us would say that that'd be so easy to do. But why was it easy for Chloe to do that? She's generous. She is very generous, and I'll never take that away from her. But what you don't know is that I gave Chloe that $5 bill, right? See, the thing is that as soon as we receive money, we put ownership on it. It's not your money to begin with. It's God's money. And if God's asking you to bless somebody with it, then it's easy because it's not yours. And that was one of the number one things that I had to learn when I first started kind of walking the walk, is that I'm putting all my pride in all this stuff. I'm putting all this stuff, and when you realize that it's not his money, just like when I was at the bank, right? I need to devalue it, de-arm this money, remember this is brown for pride. I got to take the pride out of it. I got to take the status out of it. I got to take the things out of it so that I can actually realize for what it is. It's a tool that God wants to use to bless someone else. And does he want someone to give it all away like the rich young ruler? Maybe. Are you willing to do that? But chances are not. Because he's using people to bless others, and your income needs to provide for the family. So, because a lot of people get confused, do I give it all away and then I have nothing for myself? It says not to do that in the Bible. So if you go to 1 Timothy, it said, but those who won't care for the relative, especially those in the households, have denied the true faith, such those are worse than unbelievers. So if you're not taking care of your household, he's saying you're worse than an unbeliever. So he's not saying that you have to give it all away. You have responsibilities with that. It's called being steward. Provide for your family. Get the resources that you need to do. He gave you the abilities for the job so that you can actually be successful at that job. Right? But also, to be able to give to open hands. So what helped me? First, what helped me is because I was an entrepreneur, I was always looking for the big windfall. I was always looking for that big paycheck. I was looking for that big thing that's going to, as easily as possible, give me that 100K, and then that'd be awesome. Because I didn't want to have to budget. I didn't want to have to do any of that stuff, right? So I was looking for that big windfall. What I was trying to do, I was trying to make more, but he was telling me is that why don't you first manage what you got? And I wasn't managing what I was got because I wasn't being, well, actually, sorry, I'm lying to you. I was very frugal for myself, but not frugal for my family. If my kids wanted something, I would let them go do it. I hated saying no to my wife. That I didn't want to pay for something. I was like, okay, we'll pay for this and we'll figure it out later, right? And then I would always blow the budget. And then we're stressed out because I blew the budget because I wasn't paying attention to what was going on with the budget and stuff. Another thing that was really helping me was because I was trying to out-earn my stupidity, I had a friend that was quite well off. And at the time, him and his wife made about $200,000. In today's dollars, probably about $300,000. And I thought they had it made. And then he told me that he had to go into the envelope system. And the envelope system, for anyone that doesn't know, is that you need to take you withdraw your money and all your bills, you put it in a separate envelope so you don't overspend. Because he's saying it doesn't matter how much you make, you will spend it. And I took his example as just like, well, geez, he's making 10 times more than I was making. And he can't even keep it together. So the key can't be with me making more. The key is me making more and tracking what I've already have. And then maybe if I'm tracking what I already had and I'm being good steward with that, maybe I'll be blessed with more, like it does say with the talent story in the Bible. I had to put down my pride, like I already said, realizing that it's not my money that I'm earning. Then I also had to humble myself to be able to receive. Because sometimes God wants to bless you through others and receive a gift. That was hard. So we had twins. They were babies at the time. And then the church came over with a bunch of diapers and gift cards. They had Sobeys gift cards and stuff like that, and they wanted to bless us with that. The church got together, and they said, geez, we have a young family, they want to bless us. That was really hard, because what was my first thought? My first thought was that, well, they're just trying to buy me into this, so I'll feel obligated to go to this church now, right? I didn't want to receive that because of the pride that I had, because what you're saying is that I'm not good enough. You're saying that I can't provide for my own family. I can provide for my family. Don't you know who I am? Right? Those are all the thoughts that go through your head, right? Until you need to humble yourself and realize that, no, maybe God's trying to use someone else to bless you. And it took me a while. I'm a little stubborn to kind of receive that because some people are easy to give. They say, hey, I'll help out a friend, but they're not so easy to receive. And they got to go both ways in that if you want to really grow in stewardship. I had to look at my relationship with money and how it was mirroring my relationship with God. And I got to be honest, it wasn't good. I was trying to do it on my own, and I was trying to fix things on my own. I was trying to make it so that if we were short, this meant I had to work harder. But sometimes that's not always the way, because I'm butting heads with my wife, and I wasn't working with her. I was working against her. Until I wised up and started coming together and realized, no, it says in the Bible, if you're married, you're one flesh. So how am I being one flesh if I'm fighting against her and trying to do things on my own? How am I going to be one flesh with her if that's not be the case? So working together and communicating on one common household goal is the key. Because you're much stronger together. We're much stronger together with Christ, and we're much stronger together with our spouses. And we're much stronger together with our families, and we're much stronger together with our church family, because we're all body of Christ. And we all have tools and giftings that we need to help and support each other. So if I see someone over here in need, then I can actually step in. And if I have resources, that I'd be able to help that person with need, in that resources. And sometimes it's not financial. Sometimes it's time. Sometimes it's volunteer. How many people came in this morning to have set up? Right? I gave Cliff a call, and he came up and he helped me out with the drums because I thought it was too much. So humbling myself that I can't do it all. I can't play drums and preach, even though they want me to preach and play drums right now. But I don't have that down pat. But being humble enough to know that, no, we need help. And we need to help build each other up in a way that we be able to do. The other thing I was doing is I said, okay, well, if I'm going to buy into, walking with Christ and see what that's all about, and it's like, okay, yeah, I got saved, I'm a new believer, and it's like, okay, let me kind of figure all this stuff out. I was struggling with that first passage there where I thought that he had to give away all his money. So I was like, okay, well, I ain't doing that. And I was stubborn. And then, so I said, okay, well, so I don't have to give it all away, I'll tithe. But I was doing it with an unclean heart. Right? I was sitting there going, fine, take it. And then I would cry about it. Just like, you know why we can't go for ice cream, kids? Well, no, I didn't quite go that far. I thought it, though. I was doing it with an unclean heart, not really realizing the blessings that he already gave to me. So I'm still trying to figure this stuff out as we're walking. The more I learn about Jesus, the more I can walk in his direction. Do I struggle with sometimes? Yes, absolutely. Do I have more peace in my heart? Yes, absolutely. Have we come from a major mountain of debt, and we, by working together, try to steward our way and figure out how to best give out our resources to help and bless others, to pay our debts off? We're in the pursuit of that. And hopefully by the end of the year, we'll be debt-free outside of our mortgage. Is that challenging? Absolutely. Absolutely. But it stretches your faith. The other thing that I found too is that once I start giving with an open heart, more opportunities start arising. Because beginning of the year, I only had one job, right? And then you start, being generous even with what you have, not being, resentful. And then, I was blessed with some other jobs. Another quick story is that I used to, full time, I used to take care of people with mental disabilities. And I say, okay, well, I want to get out of debt. I'm really interested in the film industry, so let me go and go in the film industry. And they make double amount of money, right? So it's like, okay, let me go there, and I could double my income. So I go over there. Takes me a while, but I finally get into the union. And the first month that I'm into the union, what happens? They go on strike. So then I went up, and they went on strike. But you be faithful even with what little that you have. And I kept on and continued to tithe through that because of even the blessings that I have. And I figured it out, right? So it's just like by working together, we cut back, we received certain blessings, we've received other things. And then I was able to, open up an opportunity that I could work. So even though it was only 2 days a week, I was still working outside of most people that weren't working. There's some guys that were off the full year. So I could have been angry that I only get 2 days a week, but there's some guys that are about to lose their house, right? There's some guys that had to draw out their RSPs just to get by, just to survive. So when you start counting our blessings on that, and then you can take that to any different level that you want. We in North America are one of the most blessed places in the world, right? Even in our poorness, right? And God wants us to be content with what we have and be able to bless those who need blessings, but at the exact same time, look for those opportunities so that you can actually increase that, because he wants to bless you as well. And then I thought about that as like, because I don't know why I kept on focusing on the rich run rich young ruler because, Abraham, he was rich, right? Solomon, he was one of the richest people in the world, right? So there's all kinds of people that receive money because money is not the issue. It's all about the heart issue, right? I know a lot of people who are really wealthy and have a great relationship with God, right? It depends on what your heart is mirroring. Is your heart being able to mirror that? We have to give ourselves that heart check. The other thing I was kind of thinking about too is, why do we tithe? Is that for him or for us? We tithe, what I found is that because I'm giving the first fruit, then I'm putting him first. And then I'm also trusting that he will provide, even when it's scarce. Even when it was scarce, it was hard for me to trust in that. It's like, okay, if I do that off my first fruit, I'm not going to have enough. But he always made it work. He always made it work. Sometimes even 10 times more than what I was anticipating, whether it's for more employment or whatever. But it's aligning your heart so you can be open. And the same thing, why do we worship? Does he need songs? Does he need praise and worship? Or do we need to recognize who he is through praise and worship? Who's that actually for? It's for us. He says in the Bible to sing amongst each other, to each other's hymns and songs, right? Why? So we can build each other up. He's already built up. There's nothing more to do to add to God. But we need to be built up. And we do that through tithes, offerings, praise, worship, meeting together, being in communion. So we go back to the question, how is your guys' heart mirroring or reflecting your relationship with God? How is your relationship with money reflecting your relationship with God? As a rich young ruler, he did all the right things on the surface, but he needed that heart check. He needed to change from his stuff to Jesus because he was searching for his stuff for life. See, he was turning to his stuff for his security instead of Jesus. He was turning to his stuff for comfort instead of Jesus. We need to kind of flip that stuff around so that Jesus is our security for money. Jesus is our comforter. Jesus is our provider. Jesus is our rock which we will stand. Jesus is our guide that we will ask wisdom from. Jesus is the leader that will be actually one who we will follow. Jesus is our strength which we will be able to even work. Jesus is the one that we all give praise for all the blessings that we receive. The steps to stewardship is, are we praying? There's some things that we need to do when we actually go over our finances is to pray. Pray for what does he want to do with this?